Okay, so we've gone over the more technical aspects of a camera elsewhere, but how to practically, animate it? How do we go about, doing a fly through on the solar system? How do we just practically approach this? So I'm going to create a camera, not like with anything special, just a camera. I'm going to call it fly through camera. I always include the word camera just so I like if I'm looking at the node, I'll know for sure what I'm looking at. Um, and wherever it ended up, there it is. That's fine. But really, it most things when we're animating them, I've got my little solar system running here. It doesn't look pretty interesting yet, but we intuitively move them around and just put them where we want them to be. The camera's a little bit different though, right? Because it matters what it's seeing. So what we really have to do is stick our viewport in the eyes of the camera. And there's a few things we're going to do to make that happen. First of all, we're going to keep our outliner out here so we can always select the camera so we can always key it when we need to. We're going to go to panels, perspective, fly through camera. We're going to find everything. There it is. Find the stuff. Um, I'm gonna focus in on this just a moment. Yeah, there we go. Because when I'm panning, if you're panning and you're like moving your mouse up and down lots and lots and lots, but it's not moving very much, it means you're focused on like something else and the math is off. So pick one of these other things, F on the keyboard, and you'll be able to, pan a lot more efficiently. But see, I clicked on something else. I can click on the fly through camera and still get this and still key it if I need to. A couple other things. Under view, camera settings. One thing that you can put in is the either film or resolution gate. And what this shows you is what's actually going to be rendered. Now, we're not technically rendering here for the most part in this class, but that will matter. Now, it brings up whatever your render settings are. Mine are a little bit smaller because they might be set up for something we were doing in the previous class. If you wanted to change them, you would have to go into your rendering menu set, render settings, and you would have to come down here and, pick something else, full, nope, that's not a thing. Well, it is a thing, but there it is, HD 1080. All right. And that would be, this is like your standard aspect ratio. So changing that is what changes this. You're not going to find it in here, right? You have to go into render settings. Let's get back to there. Another thing, well, I'll show you the other setting in a minute. So let's move our time marker back to the beginning. Watch my animation, see what's up. So I'm on the opposite side of this than what I want to be. There we go. So I'm just going to set up a shot. I'm going to click my camera. I'm going to drag select. This is kind of where I want it to open. I'm going to drag select, translate, and rotate, all of them. All three translates are definitely going to get used because I'm going to be moving this camera through space. There's no axis of motion we're not going to be using. I'm also going to include all the rotates. Will it actually include all the rotates in the animation? I'm not entirely sure. Very possibly. So most of the motion for rotating the camera is going to be sideways, but there might be a slight tilt up and down. And that could, depending on how your rotations are set up in your file, that could translate to all three of these. So better to key them all right now and then maybe see that one is flat later. All right, so I started at the beginning, I framed up my shot, I keyed all the translates, all the rotates. And again, you can drag select all these at once, hit right click, key selected. You do not need to go through and key everyone individually. Now I'm going to cheat, I'm going to go to the end and then we're going to put something in the middle. I'm going to go to the end, put myself on the other side of the solar system, find a composition that looks interesting, drag select all the translates and rotates, right click, key selected. Now I already know that technically this is not going to work because it's going to put me, I think, too close to everything. So I'll need a third key out here to like pull me back. But we're going to watch it. We're going to see what happens. Actually, it wasn't half bad. I know what I'm missing though. I want one of these things. I need to lower this because I want Saturn or whatever to like fly up into view. So I can go here. Where does Saturn go by? Somewhere over there. So what I can do, I could try putting in like a middle key here. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of a hitch in things. I think because I have the wrong settings set up. But that got me nice and close to that thing. So that was kind of nice. Let's see. Cool. I really like this part where all the inner planets kind of go. And then you can see this one separating out because it's going faster. I think that's pretty interesting. Um, but at this point, I'm looking at the sun and I'm kind of saying, all right, I like what it's doing. So at this point, I would actually probably change the animation of the planets before I changed anything with the camera, right? Because you're supposed to set up your camera first and then animate stuff on the screen. So I should really be, if I want Saturn to be up here, I should be changing its arc. I can change. There we go. The plane which it goes through. So instead of dipping down this way, it'll cut across the screen. And I definitely would also want to change the speeds of some of these things because as much as this is cool for these to come whipping around at the same time, I want to change it so that this is a little bit slower and this is more quick. There's things we want to set up so that it's not a little bit so samey, basically. But all right, so we've got the basics down here. Now I mentioned before that there seems to be a little bit of a hitch right there. Yep, you can tell where the camera key is just by watching it. That's the thing that you'll want to. This is a practical example of something I'll talk about when we do graph editor stuff. But just watching it when you can tell the key is there. If you can tell the key is there, maybe something's off. So Windows, Animation Editor, Graph Editor, and there it is. And this is happening because we set our keys to linear because we want things to not be slowing down and speeding up. Now that makes sense for everything to do with the planets. It doesn't make sense for this. If you are transitioning from this pan over here to this one over here, we need a smoother transition. So I am going to choose, these are your options for your tangents. Nope. There we go. Spline. I'm hovering over them. They tell me what they are. Because I don't always remember which is which sometimes. I tried flat at first. This is something we'll use with characters a lot, but you can see that it's going to come down here and it's going to slow down as it gets to here, which I already know because I've done this enough that that's not going to look right either. Watch. Like, why would the camera do that ever? So we select all these keys and we hit spline. And then this way, it'll just keep moving. No more hitch. No more slowing down. This is possibly one of the only times kinds of things you're going to use a spline tangent for. Spline tangents are for keeping things going the same direction. In fact, you can actually hit the spline tangent for this as well because you can actually see it slows down a little bit, or it's faster here and then it slows down. And the same thing's going to happen over here. So I can hit, oh wait, I guess I need flat tangents there. Interesting. I guess because it's the end. Flat tangents will keep it going. Let's see. Definitely don't want that there. Okay. Spline tangents work well for the end because it'll keep it going at the same speed. But for some reason, it's not quite working out for all the beginnings. Some of them it is. So that one, spline works better. You could see it working out better than the flat tangent. But when I put it on here earlier, yeah, that's icky. So sometimes, you look at it, you watch it, and you choose the one that works best even for that particular attribute. Oh, and I mentioned before there might be something that didn't get used. And there it is, the rotate Z. So apparently how I'm tumbling the camera around and how I'm framing my shots, I'm not rotating along the Z axis. That's not surprising. That's the axis that would like tilt it in this direction, which I don't want to happen. So, we can leave that there though. It's one extra attribute keyed is not going to break the system. It's not going to make things too heavy. But if I need it to be keyed later, if I do end up using that axis, I'll want the keys there. One last thing you'll want to set up for this well, a couple things. One is, what if I'm working like this and I forget that I'm in my fly through camera, right? Because you do that, right? You're like, oh, I need to like look at this thing and I need to zoom in here, and you're like, oh crap, I just messed everything up. Fortunately, I know that if I don't key it, it doesn't change. But there is another way to make sure you can fix this problem. View camera settings, undoable movement. And what this means is that when I rotate along here, I hit Control Z and it undoes the camera movement. That's great for this fly-through camera. I wouldn't want it for my perspective camera. Let's go back to perspective. Okay, good. It seems to be per camera. Yes, it's on a per camera basis. Good, good, good. Because you don't want the undo to happen every time you are moving your perspective camera around. That would be insane. So let's make sure it's still there because I was hitting undo. Yep, so undoable camera movement. So if you have a fly-through camera, if you have a camera that you're working with to animate and you're using, this option of like intuitively looking through the camera to frame your shots, then by all means, use undoable movement, and that can kind of help you out as well. The other thing you could do if you wanted is have a side by side. So you could have this where there's your perspective and there's the fly through. So sometimes people will work. That's how strange. The grid showed up. Let's make sure it'll only update one live. So whichever one you've clicked on, that's the one that updates live. And then this one will go. So you can only watch the animation one at a time. But one of the things you can do, let's go here, is move the camera here and this updates. Now the animation won't play live in both, but this will update live for you. So that is another way to frame up your shot. So some people like to see the camera that they're moving, but you have to see what the result is because you're not going to be able to guess it, from here alone. And so I clicked this button to get the split screen, and I made this perspective and then this the camera. And you can see the gate is still up. But you're not seeing the whole picture. It's showing you the whole picture within reason, but it's not going to zoom this out really, really far. That gives me a little bit more of the picture. Oh, hello. There we go. Which is why I like having just one view and using the intuitive moving myself around in a camera situation in order to frame up the shots and get going on that. All right, so it's a little bit different than moving the planets around because you're not clicking on it and dragging it. You're actually navigating yourself, around in the world. And it's also a little bit different because we need to put keys on 6 different attributes. Again, drag, select, right click, key, and that's how you can key multiple attributes.